finals versus a familiar face here in Allan Martinez.
Allan and Alberto can't get away from the A's. But as a heads up to all of you, we know that tomorrow is going to be Father's Day. So you know, if you're out there enjoying the day with your father or your whatever like figure that you see fit to celebrate tomorrow, just know that if you wanted to join us, we are having another PC tomorrow. I will be here. Gavin will not be. But that's totally fine. You'll be here in spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
The Gavin Michael spirit will be here with us. But we would love for you guys to come join us, or you can still watch us on the same channel. And before we get to this final match, just want to say a couple thank yous to POW Gaming and then to Pokemon Labs. Miguel is a godsend to our community, and we thank you every day for that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, going into this finals match, I gotta say, I think Al's gonna take it.
I just want to see how many other like flinches we can get with Rock Slide. Honestly, that's my big thing, right? Like, yeah. Look, think of it this way, right? Every time you hit an Annihilate, you can just be like, oh yeah, cool. Like, you're gonna boost up my Annihilate, but then the flinches. That's all I want to see, right? It's like, how many flinches can we get in one game? Like, reasonably.
If you could Rock Slide flinch out and Annihilate, that's especially funny, right?
That's a skill, okay? Flinching and Annihilate, like when you need to, is a skill, not not R&D.
Yeah, this is another matchup, right, where it feels harder to justify the Klefki because of the setup, right? Like, we saw that Aaron had, like, the setup with the Sword Stance Iron Hands. Allan's got set up the wazoo, right? You got the bulk up on the Annihilate, plus the beat up, plus the nasty plot. It just feels very difficult to do anything besides play a fast game and try to beat it down.
Yeah, I think this is like one of those, like, the longer the game goes, the more in favor it goes for Allan, right?
Yeah, exactly, because it feels like if Alberto isn't able to do something quickly, I mean, Allan's hits are going to hit so hard. And it's just going to be like every hit's going to knock out. And it's like, you're not going to care about the bulk up on the Corviknight, right? Because you get up to plus whatever, and the Gholdengo, like, plus 2 with Thunderbolt's going to, like, knock out the Corviknight, right? And
yeah, at a certain point, you're going to sit there and think, like, okay, cool, you can like, bulk up yourself for days, but at a certain point, like, that damage threshold is going to exceed any sort of defenses that you have.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because it's just so many of Alberto's options are limited, but all of Allan's options, like, come, like, available, right? Like, I can't sit here and say, like, oh yeah, Allan can't go Gholdengo here or something. It feels like absolutely everything is on the table, and I think with that, it puts a lot of pressure on Alberto to have to be accurate about what is going on here and what he wants to punish, because it's just so difficult to have to punish everything. And we've seen against Allan, he's so good if you try to play too passively and you need to go for it.
Yeah, and we're actually going to start out with that Gholdengo and then Roaring Moon, and Roaring Moon stares on another Roaring Moon with that Flutter Mane. So it is going to be two in the sky and a couple on the ground, I guess. But you've got the Photosynthesis activating second on Alberto's Roaring Moon is actually going to boost that attack.
Yeah, so Allan having the speed boosting Roaring Moon versus the attacking boosting Roaring Moon. So Alberto is going to be hitting really hard here. Gholdengo probably feeling a little uncomfortable here, right? Probably doesn't want to have to eat a strong throat chop from the Roaring Moon. And the thing is, like, Allan's Roaring Moon normally feel pretty good, right? Like, you can, like, just knock out the Flutter Mane. Alberto is Sash. Doesn't matter if you Terraflying Acrobatics, you're not gonna KO.
Yeah, your Flutter Mane goes like, you thought I'm here with 1 HP left regardless. So kind of an interesting lead from both of them is there is going to be an immediate Terrastalize here on turn 1. I love this. This Roaring Moon says, okay, you know what? We're not gonna do this. Allan says, I'm going to go for that Flying type Terrastalization. We're gonna try to make sure that at least we can survive something here, and no actual Terrastalization from Alberto's side, as tailwind from Allan's Roaring Moon is going to set up the speed advantage here. Gholdengo just straight up going for the offense here, is going to able to activate that Focus Sash on Flutter Mane with that Make It Rain. Roaring Moon taking actually a lot of damage from that as well. Is going to have to take a special attack drop for its troubles as Flutter Mane goes and returns fire with a Dazzling Gleam. Doesn't do as much damage as that Make It Rain did, but a tailwind from Alberto's own Roaring Moon to round out this turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Allan there, I think he did a great job of not getting greedy with Gholdengo. The previous times we've seen Allan's Gholdengo, we've seen it click Nasty Plot maybe twice before it does anything, but now it's just going for the Make It Rain, saying, like, that Flutter Mane is Sash. It doesn't matter if I'm at +6 or +0 or -6, I'm doing the same damage to it, basically. So just get the one hit off. It makes it so that now the Roaring Moon, if it wants to, can knock out the Flutter Mane. And it's just that yeah, Allan committed the Terra, but Alberto lost a lot more HP in the process.
Yeah, and definitely like being forced to proc your focus sash so early on is actually also a really rough spot for that Fluttermane, because Fluttermane is one of those Pokemon I think that when you look at it, it's one of your heavy damage dealers, and to lose it so early is tough.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, if you're Alberto, what you can say is you've disrupted a lot of the potential setup. It's going to be hard for Goldengo to set up and do anything. It's going to be difficult for a Mouse Ape in back to be scary, right? Because beat up, like, you can't beat up if, like, beat up is based off the amount of Pokemon you have still on the field. So if you lose 2, you only get 2 boosts off it.
Yeah, so Roaring Moon says, you know, we're going to tag out for a different sort of something in the sky as that Corviknight comes into play. Double protects actually here from both the Goldengo and that Fluttermane from Alberto and Allan, as Roaring Moon goes for the acrobatics into what was that Roaring Moon spot is now that Corviknight. Corviknight eats that up all day, though. It's just going to be like, all right, I'm switching in, you know, brushing off that damage as Goldengo actually slowly recovering that HP from that Dazzling Gleam. It almost looks like it didn't even get hit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Alberto's just recognizing that this is going to be the most value he's going to be able to get out of Corviknight this whole game, right? Like, if you're able to use the Corviknight to effectively beat the Roaring Moon, especially now that the Fluttermane's taken enough damage that, like, I mean, it's going to be an outsped and KO. You need the Corviknight to take it on, especially now that the Goldengo's at -1. So, yeah, it can Thunderbolt, but it probably won't hurt that much. You at least force it to Nasty Plot, and by the time it does that, you might be able to get in your own Roaring Moon back and hit it with a Throat Chop.
Yeah, so I guess like Alberto's still sort of in that same spot where like Fluttermane is barely hanging on, and for what really, like, you know, just a chance to get knocked out by something else. But I guess that means you don't have to worry about like other Pokemon like hitting you down. But Goldengo actually saying, hey, I don't like this party, I'm going to leave. Iron Bundle's coming in place for it. So this bird just gonna say, all right, cool, we're gonna make Fluttermane fairly awkward here as Fluttermane goes for a double protect, is unable to do so. Acrobatics here from that Roaring Moon is able to deal a whopping 1 HP amount of damage into that Fluttermane, finally being able to knock it out. This Fluttermane hanging on a little longer than I think it really should have, as Corviknight is going to go into that Brave Bird in that Roaring Moon. It's going to take a little bit of recoil damage for its troubles, but is at least able to get some damage down into that terrestrialized Roaring Moon on Allan's side.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, the Iron Bundle is off on the field now, which does... It puts on some pressure, especially against like, potential back and everything. But the big thing is like Alberto is still trying to say like, I'm just going to try to get as much value out of the Corviknight as I possibly can, and I'm going to try to keep as much alive around the Corviknight as I can until I pick up a KO, and then hope whatever's in back is enough to deal with the Goldengo. And saying like, Corviknight can beat everything on this team, except for that Goldengo in the long run.
Yeah, and actually we're gonna have just one Roaring Moon on the field as Allan's terrestrialized Roaring Moon is gonna be switched out. That Goldengo coming back out to play and says, okay, I didn't want to be left out, here I am again. Roaring Moon from Alberto's side gonna go for a protect on this turn, didn't want to take any sort of damage, and Iron Bundle actually opting for that freeze dry into that protected spot. Roaring Moon saying, all right, no, not today, as Corviknight goes for the Brave Bird one more time into that Goldengo, does very, very little damage, and even then, that Goldengo is gonna be like, hey, you know what, all the damage you did, don't even worry about it, I've got a leftovers to get that back some of that HP.
And that's what Allan's so good about, right? Like, he knows what his opponent is trying to accomplish in every position. So when he's going for those reads, he's understanding and knows like what he's trying to accomplish, so he's able to catch out a lot. One thing here that kind of like colors this position a little differently is this Iron Bundle does not have Hydro Pump. What that means is if Alberto is able to get into Chiyu, it's not immediately like at a death sentence, right? Like the Chiyu can't actually like something effectively, and that's like that Allan's gonna have to get back to his mind. Maybe he wants to try to punish a switch or something. Maybe the freeze dry into the Roaring Moon isn't as safe as it might initially seem.
Yeah, I just want to say I approve of no Hydro Pump. I've made my thought. Look, every time I click Hydro Pump, I miss Scald. That's all I think about. It's just like Scald. I know how some people feel about that, but I mean honestly, like it's kind of like an awkward spot I think for Alberto, where he has to sort of figure out what Allan's gonna do. But freeze dry now from the Iron Bundle gonna connect into that Roaring Moon, is able to pick up a knockout, so no Throat Chop in retaliation against the Goldengo. As Roaring Moon goes down on this turn, Goldengo gonna go for a Make It Rain here. Corviknight's gonna have to take that damage. Goldengo is gonna get that minus special attack for those troubles, as Corviknight is able to at least eat that berry, get back a little bit of its health, is gonna get back into the green, just barely so. They're going to be able to go for a body press into the Iron Bundle. Not quite half of the HP of the Iron Bundle though. And this Goldengo just slowly getting back all of the HP that it's been losing over the course of these turns.
Right, and Alberto is down 2v4, but he's still in. Because you're threatening, he has Heat Wave, right?
On the Chiyu?
No, it's just the Flamethrower. But the thing is, like, you can Flamethrower the Goldengo, and maybe body press the Iron Bundle, right? They can still get there enough, because once this Goldengo goes down, it's so difficult for Allan to this Corviknight. So you kind of abuse that, right? You can like say, yeah, the Goldengo is probably forced to switch out here, and I can abuse that. I can like maybe flamethrower the Iron Bundle and Roost, especially now that it's at -1, and take advantage of just like Allan's limited resources.
He also still has his terrestrialization available to him, right? So because Allan already did use it on that Roaring Moon that has the flying terrestrialize that's still in the back, still like still not fainted, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, the onus is here on Alberto to like try to figure all this out, as freeze dry from the Iron Bundle does so much damage into that Corviknight. But she's gonna say, all right, cool, you hit my friend, I'm going to burn you for your troubles here. Is gonna pick up the knockout with that flamethrower. But I think we saw that Corviknight click into that Roost. It's just a matter of being able to survive here. As nope, that's not going to survive for a Roost here, as Thunderbolt from Goldengo is able to pick up that knockout. And
this is what Allan's been so good at this whole day. He knows that Alberto is going to try to punish it. He knows that the Goldengo is his only way of doing it. He's willing to risk it because he knows what Alberto is going to be doing.
And I also wonder if really if it's like a risk at all, because Alberto is technically down a 2 versus the whole of like what Allan has left here, and so like really like not it doesn't feel as punching as I think it might normally be if you had a full team, right?
Maybe, but the thing is like, let's say the Goldengo goes down, right, and then the Corviknight roosts back up. It's just hard to like break through it. Even still, you're gonna have to like encore lock it into that Roost actually.
And there we are. That acrobatics from that Roaring Moon is able to pick up the knockout here on that Chiyu. No terrestrialization at all from Alberto. I don't think he was ever in a spot where like it was okay to do so. And like so game 1 going to Allan. He just needs to win one more to win this PC, and I think because of the threshold, it's plus 30 still for whoever wins this one, right?
Yeah, it's plus 30 for first, and second is plus 16, so that's a big gap, and like for these PCs, winning is basically everything.
Yeah, honestly, like I think that like Allan has just been kind of showing that like again, if you read properly, you get rewarded for it. If you don't, you get punished pretty heavily for it, and so it's been kind of like it's been so interesting watching like that game 1 versus Geo's game 1 on stream, right, him for like that top 8, because it was such a much slower game where he was doing a lot of setup versus what you have right now with like Alberto, where he's just like aggressive.
Yeah, I think what Alberto has been so successful at doing is recognizing the lines where, like, I mean, that game 1 that we saw versus Aaron, right? He recognized that he could sack everything, get to an end game that was very easily winning for him, and just said, like, no matter what you do here, I win. Can't do that against Allan's team. Don't have those guaranteed end games, so it feels like no matter what, you're gonna have to get some calls right. And if you're uncomfortable making those reads, all of a sudden Allan is forcing you to have to go for them.
Yeah, I kind of wonder like how you're supposed to navigate that, because I feel like both of their Roaring Moons setting up Tailwind to make sure that neither one of them had like that extra speed advantage was such a big deal. But then after that, like it feels like Alberto's Roaring Moon isn't able to do as much as Allan's.
Because Alberto has that attack boosting Roaring Moon, right? So then it's a matter of like, Allan is always going to have the speed advantage, and what the one thing that Alberto can do is get that big hit off, but never got that big hit off. He wasn't able to throw a throw chop into the Goldengo, which would have been game changing. He wasn't able to throw an acrobatics off into the Roaring Moon because none of it felt safe. He didn't want to like whiff an attack into a protect, so he went for Tailwind, which was guaranteed value, but Allan understands that. If you're going for guaranteed value, you're gonna get no value at all.
Allan says, you know what, this isn't my first season and it's not yours, so we have to match these Tailwinds. And now we're gonna go into this game to see what might have changed as Roaring Moon and Goldengo, so the same lead here as Roaring Moon and Fluttermane. If this looks familiar to you folks, it's because it is the same leads as game 1.
They said run it back.
They said, hey, you know, it worked so well for me. Allan said that I'm gonna do it again, and Alberto said like, what could go wrong this time?
I think that if you're Alberto here, right, like running it back, generally, like if I'm bringing the exact thing and running it back, that means I'm recognized that there was one turn where I was like, I could have won if I did that, and I'm just going to change that one thing and it's going to be fine. And Alberto's end, it's going to be the throw chop to try to punish the lack of care of Golden.
All right, and it's almost like we're pressing repeat for the most part here, as Allan is going to go for that terrestrialization on that Roaring Moon, gonna get that flying Terra type here. We did see it use Tailwind game 1, and is actually going to do the same thing in this game, but we are gonna have a bit of a switch up from the opposing team here. Goldengo is gonna go for that Make It Rain, is able to hit both of these Pokemon. Again, Fluttermane able to hang on because of its Focus Sash, so hanging on with that 1 HP. is going to be able to return fire here as Golden Go gets knocked down one special attack here. Flutter Rain going for the Dazzling Gleam is able to get a little bit of damage here, but Alberto saying, hey, you know what, that Golden Go did not like it, we're going to knock it out this time. It doesn't matter that you have the speed advantage more so now, as long as that Golden Go is gone with that throat chop, then I'm okay with this.
Yeah, Alberto here is just trying to, like, I feel like this play is trying to be like, I'm covering both options. I'm covering both Terras. If you Terra water, then my Dazzling Gleam will knock out your Roaring Moon. If you Terra flying, my throat chop will knock it out. But then the question is like, can Alberto afford to play safe? Can Alberto afford to be like, I guarantee something? Because he didn't need to take that Make It Rain on the Flutter Mane, right? He could have committed harder.
Yeah, and so I think like now, like, you know, you have that Roaring Moon still around here is going to get switched out for that Corviknight. I think sort of like that same thing that we had seen before, and the Flutter Moon actually also going for Protect this turn. Again, a lot of things have been repeating from that game. One is Roaring Moon goes for the Acrobatics into that protected Flutter Mane spot. Flutter Mane's like, nah, it doesn't matter that I have 1 HP. We're going to stay around one more turn here as Iron Bundle actually goes for the Freeze Dry into what was that Roaring Moon, now that Corviknight. Again, a lot of similarities into that game one, just no speed tying here anymore with those matching tailwinds.
Yeah. Alberto saying, I'm slower anyways. I don't need no one. I'm going to just try to trade damage favorably. I'm going to try to like get some damage into either the Roaring Moon or the bundle, figure out which one, and say like, I'm going to be able to just protect enough that I'll trade enough damage eventually that I'll be able to stall out your
yeah, able to get the double protect this time, was unable to do so in game one. So Roaring Moon is like, why won't you get knocked out, as that Acrobatics one more time goes into another protect, and Iron Bundle hopping for that freeze dry one more time into that Corviknight, gets it down to under half health, but again is able to activate that Citrus Berry. That Corviknight is gonna be able to get back a little bit of the health, goes back into that green, and is able to say, hey, Brave Bird is here, we are going to go into that Roaring Moon. Not quite enough to get it into the red, but is still able to get some damage down into that Roaring Moon.
Yeah, and this is where it becomes like Alberto is like buying time, right? He already got the Pokemon, and threatening to damage trade again into the Roaring Moon. Basically say like, I can up 3 versus 2. I can just like metal to the metal, get my Chi-Yu in front of everything, in front of your Iron Bundle that can't hit it, and I can win. So one more Brave Bird that successfully hits into the Roaring Moon is probably going to mean a win for Alberto. Allan knows this. The question is, does Allan still risk it?
And it's kind of funny because it's like we've seen him play sort of conservatively in like Gio's match, and then here it's just been sort of like just aggression after aggression, because it's like I don't know if he can afford to play slowly in some ways, right?
Right. You can't afford to play slowly, so it's like you play aggressively in a way where you feel like regardless of what happens, cover options. It makes it so that no matter what happens, you feel like you're getting something. You're not losing immediately, so it's like you can afford to be wrong, but the way you afford to be wrong is like you sack a Pokemon and bring it in for some additional momentum.
Yeah, and so Corviknight here is going to be that Terrestrialized Fire is going to, you know, just try to at least make sure it has some sort of defensives here, as that Acrobatics actually goes into that Flutter Mane. It's finally able to knock it out with like 1 HP remaining. It's been around for a lot longer than I think we all expected here, as Iron Bundle's Freeze Ray is going to go into that Corviknight one more time. Does very little damage thanks to that Terrestrialization here, and Corviknight able to return fire again with that Brave Bird, is able to pick up the knockout here on Roaring Moon, will take recoil damage, but more importantly is able to finally knock out that sort of kind of crux of a Pokemon here that really helped Allan out.
Yeah, and this is where it felt like Allan was just trying to get one more like kind of like desperation read in, right? Of saying like, I know like you think I might protect, so you might body press here, and just trying to like continuously put the pressure on and not letting it happen. But no Chi-Yu from Alberto this game. It's a Garchomp.
Yeah, Garchomp and Annihilate actually a little bit of a switch up for both of these trainers here, and you know, Annihilate isn't exactly something like I would be upset about having in my end game, right?
Right. Like the thing is, it can continuously just click bulk up here. It can like go for drain punches here. And the question with Allan is, go for the try, or are you trying to slow play? Are you trying to like protect and stall it out? Try to make it sure that you have it. And a lot of this comes down to if Alberto is going to go for a root or not, and it's so difficult to.
Ooh, Annihilate actually going for Protect on this turn, so no bulk up. We did, I think, see the Tailwind expect here. Dragon Claw from the Iron Bundle going to lock itself into that, and as Freeze Dry from the Iron Bundle does so much damage to that Garchomp, picks up that knockout. It's that 4 times. I always forget it's like 4 times super effective now on that one. But Iron Bundle still able to hang on just for a little bit, because it gets body pressed into knockout by that Corviknight, leaving this Annihilate to try and take on a Roaring Moon in this Corviknight.
Allan has been so good about like getting those reads right, and this time completely whiffs.
Yeah.
Completely, utterly just whiffs on it. Alberto fully committing. Allan trying to expect some kind of slow play there. He's trying to expect like a roost or something to try to punish like a protect, and trying to take advantage of that, and just Alberto not having it. He knows that if the bundle protected, he could have lost, but Alberto is willing to commit.
Yeah, so Annihilate gets knocked down into the red because of the acrobatics. He's gonna eat that citrus berry. Still gonna be around a little bit to go for a rage fist, but not gonna really matter here because it. Oh yeah, that Corp Knight's still able to hang on, so that Brave Bird's gonna pick up the knockout regardless. And we are gonna go into a game 3 for this final. So honestly, I think Alberto's sort of recognizing, hey, my team's really slow. Why am I clicking Tailwind?
Yeah, exactly. And he's making it so that like he's not. He knows that he needs to whiff less, and if you look at that entire thing, right, Alberto like only had a few like relative whiffs. Yeah, like the Dazzling Gleam didn't do that much into the Roaring Moon, but what it did do is the Dazzling Gleam was just enough to get it in range of 2 Brave Birds. He got the value there, and when it came down to that crucial 50-50, which is the moment he picked, he got it right. Recognized that, hey, I think the Ape's gonna protect, I think he's gonna risk it with the bundle. Did was right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that she was on the other foot because usually Allan's the one forcing his opponent to make the hard reads, and like I think Alberto's at this point where he's just like, okay, like that's like it's just I've read these chapters so many times, I know how it's gonna end.
Yeah, Alberto just wasn't falling for any of it, and now if you're Allan, it's a big question of like, ran it back. He tried to go like pretty much the same thing. Does he change it up? Does he feel comfortable going back to that same point and saying, no, this is what Alberto's going to do this time, and this is how I'm going to counter it? And if this is Alberto, right? I think that Allan's just gonna try to like hard read on something.
It's rough because it's like when you're looking at the first 2 games, right? I wonder if Allan's also recognizing like, hey, maybe I don't need the Tailwind either for my team to be so like aggressive, but it's the Flutterman that's so punishing if you don't.
It's so funny, right? Because if Alberto Tailwinds, right, and Allan doesn't, then the speeds are reversed. That's super punishing. But Allan is saying, okay, but if he's not Tailwinding, then I don't need to Tailwind, and I can just go for an attack. And again, it's just like every interaction here is just like some kind of layered mind game. And what Alberto's just been trying to consistently do is get consistent value early and make the reads later on. Whereas it feels like Allan is more okay risking it and then trying to like adjust later on.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of rough too because if you're in a position where you're having like that sort of same game 1-2 sort of turn, right, then you have to start making the reads of like, oh, well, it's gonna expect me to Tailwind, but if I don't, then like, will he Tailwind? And like, this is one of those moments that you're getting down to how risky is your opponent gonna go?
Yeah, and then the question is like, do you even want to opt into that? Because like these people have like 15 other leads that they can go for, right? They can go for something else and make it so that it's like, yeah, they're thinking about what their mind game is this whole team. I'm just gonna hit them with something different.
Oh yeah, so I mean, we're gonna see exactly if they change anything up, and actually no change at all for Allan, so consistently going for the Golden Gun Roaring Moon, and you know what? We have a 3-peat here, guys. A 3-peat of leads, so double Roaring Moon, and we've got the Golden Goat and the Flutterman. So again, if any of this looks familiar, it's because the first 2 games look just like this. Now the question is, because Alberto did adjust his game 2 plan, he was able to knock out that Golden Goat super early.
Yeah.
The question is, I mean, we see him sort of walking into that again. And now it's a matter of, is Allan going to respond in kind, or is he going to Tailwind?
I feel like Allan's the type of person in Rock, Paper, Scissors to play Rock 3 times. I'm not going to lie to you.
We're going to test that out after this, guys. I'm going to see Gavin and Allan play Rock, Paper, Scissors 3 times in a row, and we're going to see what happens. But you know what? Again, we are going to have that Terastallizing, but it's actually going to be on the Golden Go this time. So still turn 1 Terastallizing, but a different Pokemon is going to be that Water Terra, so a little bit of defense now. So a little bit better protected here as Roaring Moon actually goes for the Tailwind again. No Terastallize, that's a little bit of a switch up. As Golden Go goes for the Make It Rain, we've seen what it does to the Flutterman. It's going to keep it at 1 HP. I think it does a little bit more damage this time on the Roaring Moon though. And we are going to see the Throat Chop into the Golden Go, but Allan said, not this time, I'm not going to fall for it. But we are going to see the Roaring Moon get knocked out because of that. So 1 Terastallization being switched still means you're losing a Pokemon on Allan's side. Almost lost the Golden Go too.
Yeah, that's just so rough from Allan's end of thing, because that's a defensive Terra, but it doesn't feel like that defensive at all, right? Like, you turn, like, a hit into, like, congratulations, you had a -1 Make It Rain off, and it's just like, that's going to have to be enough for Allan to win this game. And I think most crucially is loses one of his two Pokemon that's going to be faster than the Flutter Mane once the Tailwind is over. And if you're Alberto, you got to be thrilled about this, because now it feels like your Corviknight can age super easily into the Goldengo. You don't really care about the Freeze Dry, and it's like, Alberto got the better end of this still.
Yeah, I think it's really true, because I do appreciate the fact that, like, yeah, sure, you can say, all right, well, I don't want to lose this Golden Go, but there was no way of protecting that Roaring Moon. And I think at some point the Roaring Moon is just like your biggest pressure against that that Flutter Mane, because you don't really, sometimes you just don't want to commit like super heavy moves into that Flutter Mane, because you'd rather attack the Pokemon that's next to it. But if you don't get rid of that Flutter Mane, then it's just gonna keep putting damage on you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to commit into it because of the Protect. Alberto likes clicking double Protect. But also it's like you attacks to get rid of it, otherwise you're still going to feel that Flutter Mane.
I mean, that Flutter Mane is not going to get knocked out, not because of the Protect, but because it's switched out for the Corviknight, as Roaring Moon goes for the Protect on this turn. So, Double Skies, Iron Bundle goes for a Freeze Dry, and that Roaring Moon says, no, you're not going to touch this. We are going to be protected this turn. And Golden Coat goes for the Thunderbolt, double down into that Roaring Moon, so that Corviknight said, oh man, that Thunderbolt that could have been for me, no, comes in completely free and just unpunished.
Alberto is just getting every turn right, and Allan is just trying to punish things. He was expecting to Protect, switch to Corviknight, because that's what Alberto's done every time. He's been protecting, and Alberto's like, there's no reason I need to do that.
Alberto also said, hey, you're not the only one who can switch things up in Game 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Alberto was like willing to change it up, and he is coming to fight with Allan. He's saying like, alright, like I can go for these reads too. I can get in my Corviknight safely. And it's just like, it's uncomfortable for Allan, because like, yeah, these are mind games, right? But these aren't the mind games that Allan is used to setting up. Like, he's not setting up like the mouse hold protect mind games. Instead, it's just like, alright, which slot switching? And while they are reads, it's a different type of reads.
Yeah, and so there's Flutter Mane finally taking that 1 HP down, said, hey, don't worry, Roaring Moon, I've got your back. I will go down in your place here. As Golden Go actually goes for a nasty plot on this turn. It's going to be at +1 because it did use that Make a Ring from earlier, but Corviknight is saying, alright, you're going to take that time to set up? No, you're going to get hard punished for that. He's going to get knocked out, so that nasty plot is going to turn to a nasty knockout for it instead. He's going to go down, losing Terastallization, and just Alberto saying, hey, Allan, I know you know how to play mind games, but I can read those really well.
Right now, Allan is just trying to throw haymakers, right? He knows he's down 2 Pokemon. He knows that Tailwind is going to run out, and that it's going to be more difficult to deal with this Corviknight in the late game, especially with the Tinglu.
Yeah, that Tinglu, so no one to highlight for Allan here, as Roaring Moon and Corviknight just been absolutely kind of just terrifying here. You know, Alberto being able to just consistently like make reads, still hasn't used his Terastallization on this battle either. Yeah,
and we don't even know if he needs to, right? He can just stall everything out. The Tinglu is going to be doing minimal damage, and just throw attacks into the Iron Bundle until win. Like, it's so hard to get enough mind games with this, especially because the Tinglu is Assault Vest. You can't play Protect mind games when you can't Protect.
Yeah, well, at least the Iron Bundle and the Roaring Moon can do so. They both click Protect. A Stone Edge here is able to connect. I don't know if that even moved, but Corviknight going for the body press into that Protected Iron Bundle spot. So Roaring Moon actually burning Protector was never like sort of targeted down. And the Tailwind actually finally running out here on Allan's side.
One thing that might end up mattering here actually is the Tinglu wants to be lower than the Corviknight, kind of counterintuitively, because Alberto is going to be able to in the long run heal up the Corviknight with Roost, but if you can punish the Roost with a Stomping Tantrum when it's grounded, then you might be able to knock it out, because those Stone Edges are not cutting it.
Alright, and here that Freeze Dry from into that Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon's still able to hang on, so it's going to return fire with a Throat Chop. He's still a little bit above half health for the Iron Bundles. Corviknight is going to almost clean it up with a body press here, but not quite so, as Stone Edge from that Corviknight into that Corviknight from Tinglu. Slowly getting it down, but Corviknight says, I still have the berry, I'm going to eat that up, I'm going to get back into that green, so you're still going to have to like land all of those Stone Edges. And this Iron Bundle sure might be able to go to knockout, but is going to get knocked out possibly in this next turn.
Yeah, and it's so hard. Allan's at his last bit of HP with this Iron Bundle, which is his last bit of maneuverability, and Alberto just has many resources at this point. It's his game to lose, and just needs to get a little bit more on that Iron Bundle, and he'll be able to overwhelm the Tinglu and take this game.
Alright, and so Icy Wind actually going to be a different move of choice here from that Iron Bundle. It's going to pick up the knockout here on the Roaring Moon. Gets a critical hit on Corviknight, might matter later on, just depending, but Corviknight says, hey, that speed drop, no, it's going back at you.
That means the Flutter Mane is faster now.
Yeah, so Roost here from Corviknight is going to heal up some of that HP. Mirror Armor, just such a good like ability here. As Stone Age is going to connect to that Corviknight. Do you see how little damage that did because that Corviknight got grounded here? The Fluttermane to get knocked out from but Garchomp is still going to just be like, all right, this is an easy sort of like game for me to win. And then minus speed though from that mirror armor.
Yeah, and maybe if you get the if you are stomping tantrum that slot, right, you can snag Corviknight, get it low enough to matter. But at the end of the day, this Garchomp is going to be going for Terra, Ground, Earthquake, and Tinglu's got a lot of stats, but Terra, it's going to be doing a lot of damage.
This Garchomp said, hey, it's I'm here to win this game now at full health with the Terrasilize still here. And this Iron Bundle is trying its best to hang on, is going to protect on this turn as Garchomp goes for that Earthquake. Is not going to hit that protected Iron Bundle, but it is going to hit that Tinglu because Corviknight is back in the air after that turn of Roost and is boosted by that Terrasilization to so much. I mean, it is a critical hit, but like the doubling down, you know, I mean, at some point I think this Tinglu is going to go down, and Tinglu also uses Earthquake and is going to say, you're not the only one who can shake things up here, is going to return fire with that. I guess you were expecting your Iron Bundle to go down at some point. Also gets a critical hit here. Was that a double critical hit from like the Earthquakes?
But it's not going to matter because Garchomp gets the KOs first, and with just one Earthquake, Alberto Lara is going to win this tournament.
Yeah, there you go, guys. So that Garchomp said, all right, we're gonna show you guys who's like the king of this this team, and it is that Garchomp is gonna get that double knockout and gonna get that win now for Alberto, giving him this set and finals a 2-1. That was honestly, I really appreciated the way they both adjusted it, and I'm wondering like if at the end for Allan, if that tailwind sort of matters for him. But yeah, I think it does for the Fluttermane, but
yeah, I mean, like it is getting some value out, but it's just I feel like there was a whole chain of events there where Allan felt like he was just trying to get something done right through a haymakers. That's why he nasty plotted with the Goldango, right, trying to make something happen, and every single time Alberto shut it down, realized that he was in the driver's seat and that Allan was going to try to make something happen and just punish it every time, and that's why Alberto won. Everything that Allan was trying to go for a little shenanigans, trying to get cute, punish. He thought there's no way that Alberto is going to go for the throat chop dazzling gleam 3 times in a row.
Alberto went, you don't know me. And I think it's so fascinating, right? Because it feels like all of those games were sort of determined in that first start, right? It's like all of a sudden it's just like that first turn is so important. It sets up the tone for the rest of that game, especially with Tailwind where you have to start playing with speed tiers. And then the game 2 was just sort of like a light on, and it's just like, oh wait, no, speed doesn't matter to me if you're Alberto because you're already slow enough. Like, doesn't matter.
Alberto made the adjustment that he was comfortable with, and he was able to, I mean, I think this was the most important thing, get in the Corviknight safely. The Corviknight never took that much damage, and just recognizing that Allan's team didn't have a way of dealing with the Corviknight outside of the Goldango, and as long as that Goldango was taking damage from the throat chop and the dazzling gleam, be fine. And the only reason that game 1 was an issue was because he wasn't throwing that damage into the Goldango like he needed to.
Yeah, and then you know what? Congratulations to Alberto for winning this PC. And hey, again, tomorrow we'll be having another one. So if some of these names tomorrow might seem familiar, it's because they probably will be. So I would just again like to extend a thank you to both Miguel from Pokemon Labs and like POW Gaming. They are actually going to be having their Smash Brothers night tonight. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure confirmed on that one yet, but you can find us here tomorrow, or most of us here tomorrow, for our second PC. And if not, then hopefully you can watch from your phone or wherever you are. And you know, thanks for joining us. Gavin did most of the heavy lifting today, so this went way better than the first time we cast together.
I know. I mean, the stop cut was phenomenal. Thank you for joining me on it.
Yeah. So thank you guys again for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.